technology is working. So first of all, a warm welcome here for this last Meet the CEO and Investor discussion for today. So hopefully there's some energy left in the room, and we are not the last agenda point that is between, I don't know, any closing dinner or other activities. I'm Christoph Rabenseifner. I'm heading the strategy and innovation team in our technology department in Deutsche Bank here in Frankfurt. And I'm also responsible for what we call our corporate venture capital group, which is organizing and managing all our investments group-wide. I'm part of that team, and you might have met Jörg Lunch today as well, who was on stage, and actually responsible for the technology and infrastructure investments, which is roughly a quarter of our portfolio. One of our investments since last year is Aleph Alpha, one of, in total, 31 investments we have in the portfolio. And therefore, I'm really excited and proud to have Ramin here with me on stage. Not the CEO, but the chief.
Not yet.
But the not sure whether we shall work on that. But the chief customer officer of Aleph Alpha. What we have agreed between the two of us today is that we want to make that as interactive as possible. So we draw on your questions here as well and don't want to bore you with our front presentation here. I start with a very interesting one. I mean, you're working with us as Deutsche Bank now. The financial industry obviously is one of the heavily regulated industries out there. What is your experience?
Breathe in, breathe out. So, no, just kidding. So it's a very interesting experience in all dimensions. So of course, we as a startup, we had to learn the do's and don'ts of a highly regulated industry, which is good. And we always, since the beginning of Aleph Alpha, said, this is where we feel well. Why? Because we believe this is where complexity and innovation meet perfectly together, and this is where AI can really leverage a lot of value. So that's why we said we love to be part of this journey together with you. Yes, we have to learn a lot of things, but on the other side, we will prove that it's worth it. And if we can do this in a highly regulated industry, I would say in a not so highly regulated industries, we can do it then as well.
Perfect. And maybe just without going into advertisement, but there's already one product ready and available for clients to use, and I know there are many more in the pipeline. But what has been your approach in order to tackle what we call industry verticals and make AI really available and applied in industries?
Yeah, so the one product you're talking about, it's Creance, which is a joint venture between Aleph Alpha and PwC, and the product itself is a DORA contract checker. Well, who of you knows about the nice thing called DORA? Okay, I see a lot of hands. Yeah, so who of you has fun with DORA? Yeah. So okay, not so many hands. And of course, DORA is very complex and it's a broad topic. But we thought, okay, how can an AI technology provide value when it comes to DORA as a use case? And maybe you all know that there is this ICT contract evaluation, third-party risk assessment, right? So where you have to check basically your ICT contract if it fits to the regulatory requirements from the EU. And it's a highly manual effort. Yeah? So you have to check all your ICT contracts. First of all, you have to check, is it really an ICT contract? Yes or no? This already is a pain. Yeah? Then you have to check if it is, does it fit to all the regulations which are required? And if no, what is the mitigation? So imagine you would put your contracts into an US or Chinese chatbot and would ask, is this DORA compliant? So the first risk you have, obviously, that you don't know what will happen with your data. The second thing you have, pretty sure that it will not tell you yes, compliant, or no, not compliant, and this is a compliant clause out of this, right? And this is exactly where Aleph Alpha brings the value. The system we developed, and that's not specifically for DORA, in that case we showcase this with the DORA topic, lets you as customers tackle these complex use cases where there is not always a simple answer. So even if I would talk to 5 lawyers, 5 DORA experts, giving them the same contract, check this please, I guarantee you will not get from all the same answer, right? Because it depends. So how do you manage this? It depends. It depends on maybe your risk level. It depends on your maybe house rules, as we call this, how you interpret some regulations. It depends with whom you are negotiating. And this is all what you can adjust in our solution. But long story short, you can put in your contracts, and the system analyzes your contracts based on the DORA regulation and gives you a result for each single item of the DORA regulation. Compliant, if yes, why? Not compliant, why? Maybe compliant, look please into this area and think about this, right? And this is a great example how domain expertise and AI expertise comes together.
Thanks. Maybe picking up on one topic we heard in a previous session, whether you should put VCs on your cap table or strategic investors or strategic money. Now, Aleph Alpha has a number of strategic investors, not going through the names now. And you also mentioned that you partnered up with PwC when you started Creance and the idea of what to apply there for the industry. What is your thinking behind going so strong with strategic partnerships versus trying to build an offering that you could just sell to other parties?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I joined Aleph Alpha 1.5 years ago. And at that time, when I talked with our founder, Jonas Androulis, he said, like, I need someone who has go-to-market experience, because what we will create here together is a complete new way of commercialization. And at that time, I looked at him and I told him, like, is it really so new? I mean, it's LLMs, it's API, it's tokens, it's so easy. And as I know, this is not the way how it will move on. It will change. I believed him at that time, but I had no proof points. And now, 1.5 years later, now it really shows that's exactly what happened in the world, right? Latest news with the DeepSeek topic, you all know about this. This crushed for sure a lot of business models out there. And for Aleph Alpha, this was the best thing what could happen, honestly, because we at that time already said LLM is not a business model, so we focus on the operating system of AI, and we even integrate DeepSeek and Llama and so on, because we believe the customers should have the choice what they want to use underneath it. But and with this decision, we knew that we will not be successful if you only focus on tech and research, but only if you combine, as I said, this great AI technology with domain expertise. So, because this is where business value will be created. So will Aleph Alpha be a financial industry expert company? No. Of course, we have experts coming from the financial industry and joining us. But we said we need lighthouse strategic partners here to go into this vertical. And that's why we are so happy that Deutsche Bank is one of our strategic investors, because with this, we not only have great expertise now, but also a great sparring partner where you can guide us. Look, these are the big pain points in the industry. Let's have a look at how we can solve this. And as I said at the beginning, we are looking into cases where probably other companies would say, oh, that's really painful. And this is exactly where we feel well. Where we don't feel well are the cases where everybody else is playing around. Like, summarize my emails, write me a poem and so on. Okay, there are other great tools out there, but that's not the game we are in.
Thanks for that answer. And maybe a point also to position why we have invested here is Deutsche Bank. What Ramin just mentioned, exactly that partnership where we can think about topics which are important for us as a bank, but maybe not strategic for us in our client offering, is exactly the sweet spot we are talking about, right? There are services out there that can be highly automated, that can be simplified, that can be changed by using large language models and further technologies. And therefore, this made sense for us as well. While Ramin knows from our discussions, we have a strong partnership with US tech names as well, with whom we have launched a number of generative AI-based applications already. Obviously, that is complementary to what we are doing with Aleph Alpha, right? There is a dedicated sweet spot looking at those industry verticals, looking at use cases which actually require a certain amount of data sovereignty, of maybe also on-prem computing, not saying that other providers can't do that, but obviously we want to also have access to the entire European ecosystem. And some of you, or all of you, will probably have seen the headlines in the past couple of days following the AI summit in Paris, while we can obviously discuss around whether this content is hard or whether it is net new money. But I think what is obvious is that political leaders as well as company leaders in Europe also have now understood that they need to be part of that discussion, and they need to engage actually with companies such as Aleph Alpha in order to tackle their problems. And it will not be possible just talking to US names, because there will be use cases where you do not want to go down that route. From my point of view, as a, let's say, client, it will be a coexistence, right? You will have use cases with Google, with Microsoft, with OpenAI, but we will also have use cases with Aleph Alpha, so that we have a portfolio of technology that we can tap into. You just mentioned DeepSeek, which obviously created a whole turmoil in the AI industry. What is your assessment? How much does that impact Aleph Alpha as an AI provider going forward?
Yeah, that's really, as I said at the beginning, like, so it's for us it was the best marketing buzz we could imagine, because again we last year in August we had a so-called strategy day, which was public for everybody, where we went to the market and told the market, we believe it's not about LLMs. We believe it's about how you operate LLMs. We believe you need a choice, and we also believe the market will change rapidly. Right, the open source community will somehow at a certain point of time cross all the proprietary models, and then business models will change completely. I really remember at that time after the strategy day, I had a analyst call, and I'm not sure if this person didn't understand this, but at least I had really I explained this again and again and again, and this person said, "I got this, but when will your next large language model be deployed?" And I said, "No, I'm not sure if I really said it correctly." Now, after the DeepSeek announcement, really, literally one day after, I got requests from analysts, and they said, well, we are seeing in the market exactly what you said 6 months ago. And with DeepSeek, and that's why for us it was really, again, a nice track. We even, again, we implemented now DeepSeek in our operating system. And I'm not saying that DeepSeek is the best thing and you all should use DeepSeek. You ask DeepSeek, where is Taiwan? You get an interesting answer. So be careful with this. But what we believe in is that it's the decision of the customers. What is the best model for the specific use case? And in some cases, it might be DeepSeek. In some cases, it might be an Aleph Alpha large language model, which we also have. But in some cases, it might also be a Gemini or an OpenAI or whatever will happen in the future. For sure, a lot of things will come up. But what you don't want as a company, even as a government, and in particular as a society, is that you give the control out of your hands. This is the biggest risk you can have, because with this, then we are not in the driver's seat anymore, but we are just looking how someone else is driving. And I'm not sure, that's by the way the whole European Trump now is, because even politicians understood, oops, that's not only a technology game. This will change even the whole society and the impact of a society. That's critical.
Do we really need 109 billion of investments in infrastructure?
I have my personal opinion on this. I don't believe. I believe we need even more, but I don't believe that we need this for infrastructure necessarily. I also honestly don't believe that DeepSeek did this 5 million, and there are even some proofs behind this, but that's another discussion. But it doesn't matter at the end. I believe we need to make two things. First of all, we need funding in Europe. Otherwise, we will not be able to attract talents, companies who will build on these technologies. That's a big risk. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, and I think the motto of this event is time to act, right? We should be careful, in particular in Germany, that we don't have more judges than players on the ground. So let's not debate too much about what are the best rules and so on, but rather let's come to the execution at the end. It's really time to act. If we don't do this, industries will be disrupted, and unfortunately the worst thing which can happen is that they will be disrupted from Chinese and US companies. And that's a risk for Europe at the end.
And if I may add, that's also speaking of own experience, right? It's not only regulatory topics, but it's also within companies, right? If I look at our use cases in the bank, there are more than 20 control standards that I have to adhere to before I go into production with an AI use case, which obviously slows down the process, makes it more complicated, hopefully more secure and more stable and reliant, but we are definitely looking for ways to accelerate that process and really position Europe as well with a clear selling point of having responsible AI, secure, safe AI in place. In the end, for us as bank, speaking for Deutsche Bank, this is also what we can provide to our clients, right? We won't be the company that is cutting edge with regards to LLM research and other topics. But what we can do is apply those technologies in a fashion that our clients have experienced in the past, where they can rely on the service and trust what we are doing. Given we have already taken almost 20 minutes of our time, happy to take questions. Just raise your hand. Speak loud and clear, and we're happy to tackle them.
Yeah. Ramin, what do you think? How the culture of the company is changing if you look that high growth VCs like Lakestar are leaving and then big companies like SAP and Deutsche Bank are joining? Do you think this is something where the company is saying, okay, we are not anymore a VC case, we are now a company supporting DAX companies now in the future, or what's happening inside your company, like with this move that Lakestar and others are leaving and more corporates are coming and helping you in terms of strategic topics?
So you're well informed. That's good. So I want to judge about VCs leaving. That's everybody's own decision. Let me judge about companies joining. I think the companies who join at the end of our cap table, they understood that it's a big mission. And they also understood that being fully dependent on US or Chinese technology is a high risk. And on the other side, they also we also really are very much welcoming these industries or these companies, because I mean that's not a secret. If Deutsche Bank deploys use cases based on Aleph Alpha technology, I can go to every other financial institution in the world and say that, I mean, I've proven it because I've done it at Deutsche Bank. And this, by the way, counts for all other investors we have there, for their verticals. If I prove this there, it opens up doors. And also, it's about network, right? I mean, still, when I joined Aleph Alpha, we were 40 people. Now we are already 250, so I mean that's hyper growth at a glance, but still we are a small company. So how can I go into the market broadly, right? I need companies like Deutsche Bank. I need companies like the others you mentioned, like in SAP, who help us to really distribute the technology which we have, but in a way which really helps their end customers and the governments using the technology. That's key.
Thank you.
Quick question. How do you see the competitive landscape in AI here in Europe? So there's Aleph Alpha, I think Black Forest Ventures in Germany, and what else is happening? And in regards to this AI summit that took place in Paris, I mean, in my opinion, right, Macron showed clear leadership in taking action, inviting everyone to Paris. I think the speech from J.D. Vance was a real wake-up call. And then he even left the room not listening to von der Leyen, which is also kind of a sign, probably. But the question really is, what are the next steps on the way to speed up, and what should be done from your perspective here in Germany to get more speed into things? I think collaborating with companies like you are already doing, creating use cases is perfect, but what else needs to be done? So a lot of questions, actually.
Okay, let me start, and maybe Ramin, you can add on the competitive landscape in a second. I think the attention the AI Summit is giving the topic is first of all helpful, right? Because all of a sudden it's making the media headlines again, and we all know, at least the people that have been more closely in touch with artificial intelligence over the past 3 years, there was a clear hype cycle, and all of a sudden everyone questions whether there's really value to be gained from applying the technology. No surprise, every innovation person out there will have told you that 3 years ago, but still there was a lot of hype. The European challenge is very similar to the challenge that we had for the past couple of, I'd even say, decades, right? In order to push innovation, and be it artificial intelligence or any other technology, we need to work together, right? And therefore, the announcements led by Macron are also positive and negative at the same time, right? Because they are very France-focused. Let's be clear, right? While we have had good announcements in the past years in Germany as well, we had the WIN initiative, which is financing innovation in Germany, and a couple of other initiatives that have taken place. We have to deal with a time where Germany can't act for quite some time now until we have a proper government in place that can actually lead that technology transformation again. So we will have to bridge that gap somehow and still be part of the discussion in Europe. In the preparation discussions for the AI Summit, and our CEO was there as well, and I think Jonas was there. Also, we discussed from a bank perspective 2 things, right? One is regulation. the EU AI Act is a wonderful starting point, and I think it positions Europe in a place where you have Asia, China in particular, going their own route, where you have the US that want to take over this whole technology and probably have done at the moment. And you have Europe, who is basically having the unique selling point that we will regulate everything 100% before we even start. Difficult selling proposition if you don't follow up with products, with live products, live services available to clients. And we see that in our own business, right? The better the products get that are available outside of Europe, the more clients question whether they should stick to that route, right? Is it really worth the additional waiting time, the additional burden that you put on yourself not using a cool new fancy product because of security, data protection, and so on and so forth? So you see clients who are willing to actually share their data, willing to use products which are outside of Europe, and this is becoming a challenge. That means we really need to right-size regulation. Right? I strongly believe that there is a place for regulated AI approach in Europe. We just should not go to the end where we say we have to regulate 100% of it. Why I'm saying that? First, we want to have the innovation, and none of us knows how the technology will look like in probably 2 years' time or a year time, right? So there will be so many evolvements, which will always be a catch-up game for regulation. And therefore, I think we are consulted best to follow an approach similar to the AI Act, where we identify where risks are and contain the high-risk cases, but allow companies to experiment with things which are definitely not high risk, and play around with that, get the experience, and bring it into production. And that goes along with the strategy for companies as well, right? You won't solve 250 use cases in your company all at once, right? Select the ones where you feel you can go into production in a considerable amount of time, and learn from them, right? I have heard different voices who said 2 years ago, oh, let's wait 2 more years and then start thinking about AI. Corporate voices, right? I just think that would be the entirely wrong thing to do, right? Because you just miss out on 2 years of experience. It might be cheaper, don't get me wrong, right? From a CFO, COO perspective, maybe the right thing. But the amount of knowledge that you build in your organization, that your developers build in your organization, that your control functions, by the way, build in your organization, while we are experimenting and bringing first use cases to life, is such a luxury which we now can draw on, right? If we wouldn't have done that the past 2 years, we would be nowhere, right? I could hire a consultant and tell them, oh, build a chatbot for my client front office. Yes, but would I understand the risks and the technology? No. And therefore, I think it's that continuous investment while we make sure regulation is right-sized. And the other point, and that's probably none of you will question here, we need to make sure capital is available for those companies, right? And I'm not diving into the Aleph Alpha case, but we have seen a number of AI companies in Europe already. Once they wanted to grow, they needed to tap into the US capital market. It's just difficult. And it's not only the story that you can grow easily in the US because it's one big country and you only have to adhere to one regulatory environment, but it's pure access to capital, right? If I want to take the next step, I go where the money is, and along with that comes talent, opportunity, skills, and so on and so forth. And therefore, the more we can go in the direction where we have, be it the capital market union, be it free flow of capital within Europe, and similar regulation in the countries, Because the AI Act is a good starting point. If now every country interprets it in a different way, it will be very hard for the Aleph Alphas of this world to sell their product in Europe, right? Because it's just more difficult to sell it in France. I stopped there, and maybe you can comment a bit on the competitive landscape you see. In particular, I mean, there are a handful of names in Europe, right, which competitive.
Yeah, it always depends from which perspective you look at this. Yeah, honestly, like you mentioned Black Forest, probably you are thinking about Mistral. I don't see both as competition. And not because I don't believe in what they are doing, but rather it's like they are on the large language model level. We are on the operating system level. So we could theoretically implement Mistral. We could theoretically implement Black Forest into our system, right? So, and that's exactly the point. So what is our competition? Honestly speaking, I see the biggest competition is that nothing is being done. That's the biggest competition, right? So for me, again, it's really the call to action. What can we do? We should really think about how to leverage this technology in the companies. And as always, technology is not a solution, it's a vehicle. So you have a poor process. If you use AI for a poor process, the process still is more efficient, but still it's not a good process, right? So that's not what we should do. And we should also not forget the topic of the people. We always talk about technology, but we forget what does it mean for the people, right? So I have 2 little children. When they will go to school and maybe study, then they will probably laugh at me when I tell them I Googled things. You Googled? We only prompt. I don't know. So this might happen. So we as a society, we need to think about, we need to start from scratch. How do we change education now? How do we transform organizations now? What about AI governance? So what happens if a system tells an engineer, cut the red wire, and that's the electricity wire, right? I mean, should you just shut off your brain and say, I don't care, because the LLM told me I should cut this now, or should you rather think about this? So it's really about education, enablement, transformation. But again, thinking about what does this mean for my company? Right now, honestly, all companies are, the majority of the companies are thinking about efficiency gains, which is okay, that's the starting point. But the real value comes if you think about complete new business models. When electricity was invented, nobody thought about e-cars. I promise. Nobody thought about this at that time. And that's the same with AI. We think AI is chatbot. So just I had a conversation today. We said, I'm doing AI, I'm doing a chatbot. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's the first starting point. But that's not where value will happen. And honestly, that's not where the disruption of your industry will happen. And I'm not an FSI specialist, but I promise every industry, and right now we are only talking about white collar revolution. The next wave will be the blue collar revolution. So with all the robotics and so on going on, that's the next big wave. So positively said, we will increase tremendously the productivity of society and of human beings. The risk is, if you don't do something, someone else will take over, and that's, I think, the biggest risk.
I just may add one analogy to that, because you already tapped into the EV and electricity, right? If you think further back, industrialization, and I'm sure some of you know this example already. When the steam engine was invented, people replaced horses with steam engines, right? Great thing to do, didn't turn the tables. When the revolution happened was when they understood they now can build a factory around a steam engine, because that's the source of work, basically, instead of putting steam engines everywhere where you had a human or horse or something else. And I think that's a similar idea why we are working together, because I strongly believe there are certain components, as said in the beginning, which are important but non-strategic, which I don't have to do myself as a bank, as a company, right? I can put them in one place and they can be utilized by a number of companies, obviously with the needed security around it and everything, but that's where we have that beautiful thing, Europe, regulation, environment. We can be sure the large language model is trained with the right data and so on and so forth, which then can really change how we think about the industry and what the value add is from each of our business models, right? Obviously, probably all of the banks, all of the companies out there at the moment are trying to apply the technology to make their existing products and services better, right? Natural thing. You want to be faster, you want to save money, and so on and so forth. That's not the big change that is coming. The big change will occur if we understand that industries and maybe also companies in their own sake work different if they can share such a technology and apply it across an industry.
Hi, my name is Marcel, and I think this question is more for Ramin. As a fellow Heidelberg citizen, I was asking myself how critical do you think the location is for a company's long-term growth? The reason why I'm asking is, I think no one has a doubt on how beautiful Heidelberg is, but it's not exactly the tech hub Berlin or Paris is. And I'm curious on your opinion and your experience so far with the growth of Aleph Alpha.
So yes, Heidelberg is really beautiful. So whoever wants to join, look, I need from Heidelberg to Frankfurt 1 hour. When I'm in Berlin, I want to go from the city to the airport. I need 1 hour. So I would say from the location where we are, we have Karlsruhe nearby, we have Frankfurt nearby, we have Tübingen nearby. So we have a nice environment when it comes from a technology perspective. That's really good. By the way, while our headquarters is Heidelberg, half of our employees are in Berlin. That's our second large office. So of course we will look into this. And third topic, we have even employees coming from outside to Heidelberg. Like one employee, he's at our booth downstairs. It's Karim. He moved from Canada to Heidelberg for Aleph Alpha. Myself, I moved from Dublin to Heidelberg. So I would say, of course, you have to look into this as a company, and in particular, when we will expand internationally, we cannot do everything from Heidelberg, that's clear. I would say in Germany itself, we are running pretty smoothly. And yes, I know OpenAI opened an office in Munich, yes, but I don't see there a big issue right now, because it's really in the center of everything what you want to have at the end and nearby. Is this forever, ever? Probably not. Because we will expand internationally, and there we will look also into the other big cities, what we can do there.
Thanks.
I have a question. Christoph, you already talked about the AI use cases of the Deutsche Bank. So the question is, what are the most promising AI use cases for banking that Aleph Alpha aims to unlock through the partnership now with Deutsche Bank?
I start, and Ramin can comment whether it's the most promising one or not. So obviously, we are looking into utilizing Creance, as we just talked about. Easy one to look at that if it's already ready, right? The rest of the use cases that we are currently talking about all circle around the topics of legal, risk, and similar functions. Why? Because this is exactly where we see the edge of a model that is secure, that is running on-premise, where we have a lot of control around our data and not necessarily have to put the data on public cloud. That's a simple answer. What will be the use case that we will build together first? I think that's materializing as we speak. And my goal for this year is to definitely get one use case into production in that partnership, and have that readily available and hopefully then ready to scale in the further years out to come. And I'm also seeing that we are slightly running out of time, but I give you the last words.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also I'm bullish here. So we will, I promise we will showcase this as soon as we have this, right? The beauty of our whole stack is, I have to do the advertising now, is that it doesn't matter which exact use case it is, because you have the technology to adapt exactly to the specific use case. And that's, I think, really the critical piece of this. And maybe for Deutsche Bank, there is a use case where they believe like, this is it. This will, for us, be a game changer. Maybe for you, it's something else. But wherever it gets complex, wherever you are, as we say, out of data distribution, from the general purpose type of topics, right? This is where it gets interesting, because that's usually where you have people, experts looking at something and finding a solution. Everything what is easily to solve will be anyway the efficiency game from the standard general purpose type of technology.
And thank you very much for joining us here, Ramin. I hope we answered most of the questions. Otherwise, I think the two of us are around. So thank you very much.